Jack here, owner of Hockey Alley, bringing you back hockey history. Stories that are forgotten, stories that you remember, or stories that you haven't heard about. Today I have NHL player from the New York Rangers, Ulf Nilsson. How are you doing, Ulf?
Well, I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. Great to hear. And you're in Sweden right now, right?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, 9 hour difference. I'm in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you started playing hockey, how old were you?
Well, I grew up in a small town south of Stockholm and probably started skating when I was 4 or 5 or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But in the summertime, I play soccer, and in the winter, I played ice hockey. And so it was a lot of sports for me when I grew up.
And you played for Oiko, right? This the Stockholm team in Sweden.
Well, yeah, but I started playing for Nilsson, where I
Oh,
grew up,
oh, okay,
and yeah, and I moved to Stockholm when I was 17, and actually I was recruited to AIK uh, as a 17-year-old and as a soccer player.
oh, really?
So
Wow,
yeah, and my father played for AIK for 10 years between 1945 and 1955.
pro soccer, professional.
Well, it's not pros. It was not professional sports in Sweden in those days.
Oh, okay,
He was working as an electrician during the day, and they practiced maybe twice a week, and they had one game a week.
got it. So everybody, there was not much pay back then for sports in
No,
Sweden. No,
not at all.
no.
And even if I played for AIK in hockey because I decided that my temperament and the treatment I got from AIK. Like, it's a sports club. They have soccer and they have hockey as well.
Yeah,
And they asked me to play hockey for them in the fall of 1967. And that suited me so much better. And I was treated great by the coach and the teammates in hockey. So it was an easy choice for me.
Did you have any teammates that made it to the NHL from that team in that time?
Uh, yeah, uh, but not before me. After, it was quite a few players that played for AIK that turned professional. And one of my old teammates, and I played for Team Stockholm in a TV puck. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
tournament for 16 years old. And Rolf Edberg, he went to play for Washington a couple of years. He and
yeah.
I were line mates on Team Stockholm 1966.
66. And then was Borja Salming at that time playing in the league there, or
Yeah, he was playing for Brynäs up in Gävle.
that's North? Yes.
Yeah, and he and Inge Hammerström turned pro 73 after the World Cup in 73. So they went to Toronto in the fall of 1973.
Got it.
And Tommy Bergman, that I played with later on in Winnipeg, he turned professional in 1972. So he was actually the first guy in this big wave of Swedish players coming to North America.
Got it. So Tommy Bergman's the very first guy. So I thought would be
Yeah,
Borja Salming, but it's not. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And how did you get discovered to go to the World Hockey Association, WHA, which is equivalent to NHL? How did you get discovered to get to go there?
Well, it was a doctor from Winnipeg that was doing research in Stockholm at the physical education school where Anders Hedberg went to. And he actually played professional for Montreal Canadiens a few years, Dr. Jerry Wilson. And he had several sons that played hockey, and I think one of his sons played quite a few years, Kerry Wilson. in the NHL, and he told Winnipeg because Bobby Hull started the World Hockey Association '72, and he was kind of tired after 2 years carrying the whole league on his shoulders,
Yes.
and Jerry asked me and Anders and Lars-Erik Schuberg, the defenseman, if we wanted to move as a unit to Winnipeg. And we thought it was going to be so exciting to come as a threesome to a new team, new country, new league.
Yes.
So we can have some impact on the way we wanted to play.
Yeah. And
So that was probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my whole life. My second wife doesn't agree with that. She thinks that I proposed to her it's the best choice.
Yeah, that is true. Was it easy to play in the WHA, the North American style, or did you have to adjust? Because you're coming from a big ice rink to a smaller rink. Was it hard for you to get used to that?
Well, the rink size wasn't that difficult to get used to, but it was kind of a rough treatment that we got from, because we were four guys, because they decided to take a Swedish goaltender as well, Kurt Larsson, and then four Canadian guys lost their job.
Oh.
So, and then we played pretty well, and then everybody of those Canadian guys were concerned because four guys when we came lost their livelihood and lost their job.
Yeah.
So it was kind of difficult in the first year because our teammates were sort of scared of who's going to lose their job next year. And the opposition were really nasty to us. They were slashing and it was everything. So
yeah.
And Bobby Hull stood up for us. Really fantastic.
That's nice. Nice of him. And you were line mates with Bobby Hull and Anders Hedberg. That was an amazing line you guys had.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It was like classical music from day one.
So you guys worked together really well. It was easy to find Bobby Hull to pass to him. I mean, you were a great passer, playmaker, skater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really easy. It was Bobby. He wanted to play that style all his life, but in North America, the wingers usually just went up and down their wing, and Bobby was usually shadowed by one of the opposing team's players, so he wanted to move around, and that's what we were used to from Sweden, so it was easy for us.
Yeah, Swedish style is definitely more a bigger ring. You move more. North American changed a lot. Europeans definitely changed the game in the NHL. You see it now. A lot of Europeans they play that style. It wasn't before. It was just up and down and.
That's true.
Yeah, and you also played for the New York Rangers.
Yeah. Well, in 1978, Anders and I were total free agents to move to any team in the NHL, and Bobby Hull had turned 39. So it was amazing because Bobby said that we gave him 4 extra years on his career because he was more or less ready to hang his skates up when we came over 74. And then we had 4 great years together. And Anders and I wanted to see what we can do in the NHL. So it came down to 3 teams, really. It was Chicago, Philadelphia, and the Rangers. And Sonny Werblin and his crew there convinced us that New York is the place for us. And we thought we're going to have a good chance to win the Stanley Cup with that team.
Yeah, that was a good mix of players. You guys had Fred Shiro as the coach. He was with the Flyers. He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Flyers. How was he as a coach?
Oh, he was great. He understood the game very well, and so he let us play whatever style we wanted to play. So,
Oh, that's nice.
and yeah, and we lost to Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup final that year. They had a really good team
Yeah.
with probably one of the best defense that any team in the NHL had for many, many years. And unfortunately, we couldn't really beat them. But my 5 years that I played in New York, we lost to Montreal then, as I said, the first year in 79. And the next 4 years, we lost to the Islanders in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they won the Stanley Cup. So my 5 years, I lost in playoffs to the team that won the Stanley Cup, and that was tough.
Yeah, that's not easy. And Ireland had a lot of Swedish players too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you played with Phil Esposito. Were you ever on his line? Phil came
No.
over from the Bruins.
Well, he was already in New York when we came, but
Oh,
Phil was a centerman and I was the centerman,
got it.
and yeah, so I never really got to maybe some power plays we were on the ice together, but
Yeah.
he was a great teammate.
Oh yeah, he was good on face-offs too. It was a
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Who was the toughest face-off man that you had to face? Like that when you went up against them, they were always like you had to change your game a little on the face-off. Who would you say?
Well, I didn't really have any problems, but
No.
like when you play hockey, like the the game for me is like one face off at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to really be focused on every situation. You're out
Yes.
there on the ice, and you're only as good as your last shift on the ice. So if you think because the last shift was good, you can get murdered the next shift if you're not on your toes and on your games.
Yeah. Prepared. Who was your toughest opponent that you faced? Not physical, but like skill wise that you played against. Could be a defenseman or a forward. Who was that you were impressed with?
That Islander team was really good.
The whole team.
Yeah, I think I usually played against Bossy, Trottier, and Gillis, and they were really good players, and they were probably the best in that time when I was in New York.
Yeah, they were amazing too. The good chemistry is everything. I believe that tight group, that helps a lot in hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also when we were in the WHA with Winnipeg Jets, we lost our third year to Quebec Nordiques in the seventh game in Quebec.
Oh.
And they had a lot of good players, Marc Tardif, J.C. Tremblay, Cloutier, Richard Hull. And so those were also
They all
great.
went to the NHL too, all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mind me ask you, what were they getting in the WHA? Was it more money than the NHL at the time? Or about the same?
The reason Bobby wanted to jump to the NHL, and he never thought that they were going to make it. But in those days, if you were going to be a professional hockey player, it was no choice, and the NHL just didn't pay the players what they deserved.
Got it.
So Bobby really did a great thing for so many players. First of all, it was 200-300 more jobs in the hockey world, and salaries probably doubled for most players.
So he basically controlled the league. So he was like commissioner too. He had a lot of say, right, on the teams?
Well,
or just his team?
Well, I don't know what his contract said, but
No, not
all
contracts, but like like he would make decisions on what players would come in or go out, or he didn't have any of that.
no, no,
No,
not
no,
not really.
not
Like
really. Okay.
eh, every team had their own
Yeah.
say in what who they going to recruit and things like that.
Yeah. I know he owned the team, Winnipeg. I think he was owner of the
No,
team.
no, he wasn't the part owner, but
Oh,
he got a $1 million signing bonus.
yeah. He was the first guy to get the $1 million in any sport, I heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's
true.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your skating was phenomenal and your playmaking. How did you learn? How did you get good?
Well, I think most players in Sweden, and I think Canadian young kids as well, you play a lot of shinny. You play a lot
Hmm.
of pickup games, and you play 3-on-3s and things like that.
Hmm.
And that's how you learn the game. And it's a lot of hours that you spend with your friends when you grow up. Like,
Yeah.
because it's sometimes now when the kids are starting at 6, 7, 8, or 9 or 10, it's way too organized.
Yeah.
Drop the puck and let them move around, and
Yes.
so and let them play.
I agree. That's it's too much complication when there's just too much information. I think that the kids cannot go out and do what they
Yeah,
want.
if they coach the kids when they're young and do a lot of drills for them, you don't get better player that way. Good players, they develop when they just play around.
Yeah, messing around, like just creative.
Yeah,
Yeah, being creative. Creativity's gone in the game. It's too much. They're
yeah,
like robots.
that's
Everything they're
true.
told what they're to. It's, even in the NHL, the guys don't get to do what they want. And when you let the players play, and I was interviewing Jurgen Pedersen. I don't know if you
Yeah,
personally know him, but he said when he came to St. Louis, they tried to change his game, and then they just left him alone because it was working what he was doing.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What kind of sticks do you use back in the day?
Well, I was one of the first players that started with an aluminum shaft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. But now all the sticks are so much better. They're all composite
Yeah,
materials, and so. But I was in Sweden. I was using a Koho stick. It was manufactured in Finland.
yeah. Better
That was
wood.
a pretty good stick for me. Anders, he started using when he came to Winnipeg the same kind of stick that Bobby Hull was using from Northland.
Oh yeah.
But Anders didn't have as big of a curve as Bobby had on his blade.
Bobby's curve was like a banana curve. It's incredible.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, not that bad.
No, no.
I saw pictures and I was like, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I have one stick of his brother's that's bent. But so, did you see Bobby Hull ever bend the sticks in the dressing room? Was he always working on his hockey sticks, or?
Well, most of them were pre-made. He
Hmm.
maybe adjusted them a little bit. Like
Hmm.
they used a torch to change the blade a little bit on it.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. There's all heat gun now.
Yeah,
Times have
yeah,
changed.
yeah.
Yeah, my channel does a lot of hockey stick. I talk a lot about hockey sticks on my channel. I have my 300 videos of aluminum shafts, graphite, all kinds. Did you use a Christian aluminum? Does that sound
No,
right?
it was Easton.
Also, Easton was making sticks even that early.
Yeah,
Okay, because I thought
I think
Easton came out.
I think they were famous in those years with aluminum bats for baseball.
That's right. And because I knew Christian made, they had the Christian logo, but I knew Easton made it. But I didn't know if Easton had their own logo. Probably till '88 is the first time I saw a Easton. But you had those before, so you
Yeah.
go to, and they was very stiff. It's a stiff stick.
No, but I didn't. Mine wasn't that stiff.
Really.
No.
So they made them bend then. Okay. Yeah, it's different because some of the ones I have, they're like super stiff and you can't even flex them. They're maybe
Okay.
120. Yeah. You follow hockey now or no?
Well, yeah, I follow a little bit, but I mostly the scoreboards or the highlights from the NHL. NHL had a really good website now, I think.
Yeah. Do you like the way the game is going? Do you like the direction they're taking in the game? Less hitting, more skill, or do you still like to see the hitting?
Well, if they're clean hits, it's great because hockey is a physical game. But the problem now with the speed that all the players have and the shoulder pads and the elbow pads, like those shoulder pads are like weapons more or less. Like you get hit in the head with the shoulder, you can really get a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's not soft like it used to be. So the elbow
No.
pads too, they're hard elbow pads.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, very much so.
So would you put the red line back in, or you like it the way it is, where there's no red line, it's open play?
Well, I wished we had this red line gone when we played, but it makes it a little bit more interesting game, I think. But at the same time, we have to look at the safety of the players sometimes too. So
Yeah, I mean, if you guys didn't have the red line back then, how many more goals do you think you would have had percentage wise, would you say?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's hard to say, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But definitely it would be a lot more open, a lot more stretch passes, all that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, do you like the way the hockey's going in Sweden? Is it getting different over there, or is it the same? Is it?
Well, I think we're having a problem in Sweden because it's an old system where we don't have a professional league, but we have professional players. And then they have this old called Elite League. It's called the Swedish Hockey League nowadays. I think it's 14 teams.
Yeah.
And the last team gets moved down to a lower series, and none of these 14 teams wanted to drop down, and a lot of teams that are on the lower level now, like my old club AIK and another Stockholm team Djurgården, they're both in the second tier league now, and a lot of teams there want to move up, so they pay the players way too much in Sweden. It's not comparable to the NHL, but because of this, that no one wants to be relegated, and a lot of teams want to move up, it doesn't work. It's like it's hard to have the professionals, amateurs in the same system. I believe that Swedish hockey would be much better off if they introduced a 20 league professional league in Sweden.
The top teams only, so they don't go down to Division 1 like Allsvenskan and the other one. They stay in the same. Got it. I agree.
No.
It's tough because if you have money and the other people don't have money, you can buy better players and you'll never have to drop. It's kind of not fair.
Yeah, but someone has to drop. Someone has to be last.
Yeah.
And it's like a race now. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to buy some more players to avoid not being relegated? But the last team is going to be relegated.
So you would get rid of relegation, maybe have a North and South League, 10 teams each. That might work.
That's what I hope for.
Well, I mean, you're a professional player and they all know you. Maybe you can put a word in, they can listen to the players, the federation.
Yeah.
I think that your idea sounds good. I agree. It's a disappointment to drop to Division 1 like AIK and Djurgården back in the day were the best teams in Sweden.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's important for that top league to have the best two teams from Stockholm in that league. But
So
That's not the case now.
would you minimize the Division One leagues too? Would you get rid of a lot of teams, or would you keep more teams in the Division One the same as it is?
Well, I think most cities would be much better off not having this race of trying to get up to the elite league.
Yeah.
Instead of spending money on youth, spending money on your junior and youth programs.
Yeah.
And the senior team should be guys that are more interested in having a good job and just play hockey for fun in the as an amateur.
Yeah, the money's not there as like it is here. We know that, but the hockey itself is, the players are decent. They're good, and maybe can have the Division One teams as farm teams for the elite teams. That could work. You know, each team has a farm team. You know, that might be the best way to do it.
They have the junior team as a farm team. They can allow maybe a couple of senior players in the junior leagues.
Oh, they do allow that still. Okay.
No. But they could
drop them down.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have 3 seniors in the junior league. So these are guys over 20 years old that can play down. Is it fair for the younger guys? It's not fair. Would it be fair or no? Would you say?
Well, I think it's no problem because it raises the level of the junior players if they get to. And the best junior players, they should play in the professional league, in the top, in the elite league. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I like to see on those teams.
Yeah, that's maybe it will work. I think that would be great to, if they did that system. I really would believe that's going to be a good way, because relegation is a disappointment. Someone's got to drop, and it's not fair. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ulf, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. It's an honor to have you.
Well, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, and my dad says hello to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.